Stephen.
Hey, Chevy, thanks for doing this. I'm curious, just your thoughts on this all Canadian division, this North division, and what's it going to mean competition wise and travel wise for you guys?
Well, it's an exciting, I think, opportunity. Obviously, the league and the Players Association have worked extremely hard to try to make some things, happen. A lot of behind the scenes work that obviously should be applauded to set up all the protocols and the like to move things forward here in Canada. Obviously we took some extra steps here to make sure that from a protocol standpoint we can cross interprovincially, and so we're happy that that's behind us. From a competition standpoint, I think it's going to be, it's so exciting. I think it's a unique time in this game. The things that we've had to do to push this forward are unique, and certainly having the opportunity to have a Canadian division where it's a one anthem game every night type thing, and the excitement that goes along with it will certainly be unprecedented. Travel. If you look at all their schedules, you'll see different blocks of travel. So there's going to be some interesting dynamics there. 2 and 3, and sometimes even 4 games where you're playing a team in a row. It's never been seen before like that. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out as well. And certainly crossing time zones, for us is if from a division standpoint is different than the other divisions in the game. So again, just excited. To look at overall the possibilities. I know the coaches are extremely excited about preparing for the games.
Alrighty, and we'll go next with Ken Weeb from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Ken.
Thanks, Kevin. Just curious about the decision, what you can tell us about how the decision-making process will go into your taxi squad composition, especially given the sort of uncertainty with the American League and also, to a certain degree with the CHL itself.
I think, those are 2 big key factors that, again, we're in the information gathering stages of those things, trying to understand where the American Hockey League might, have to fit in and how it might have to operate for us this year. There's a lot of behind the scenes discussions that are still ongoing there. So, and certainly the CHL side of it does come into play when we have a young player like Cole Pefetti, coming to camp, for the first time. And then just even the European situations, there's so much information that you're taking in and you're compiling. But the most important information is going to happen on the ice, and seeing where everybody is at with respect to their stages of their career, and obviously we're going to look at what's going to be best for a player's development as well. The taxi squad will be a unique situation. We've never really seen it before, but having players that are just practicing and not playing. You have to take some certain things into consideration from a player development standpoint as well. So lots of information gathering, lots of discussions still ongoing, lots of decisions that'll be made once the players hit the ice and compete for a spot in training camp.
One more, you have one player left as an RFA, and Jack Roslovic. Can you provide any update on his situation, and is it complicated at all by the quarantine rules?
Yeah, so obviously he's an RFA and currently not signed, and to my knowledge, currently not in Winnipeg. So moving forward, there is going to be a quarantine situation, whenever we come to an agreement.
Alrighty, we'll go next with Murat Tash from The Athletic. Go ahead, Murat.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for doing this. You mentioned Cole Pefetti is one of the exciting young players. I'm wondering what the quarantine rules will be as far as Cole Pefetti, Pefetti Heinola, and others joining camp from the Edmonton tournament.
So currently, it's our understanding that regardless of their mode of transportation, to camp after the World Juniors, is that there is the modified quarantine type of thing. It's when I use the term modified quarantine, it's where you do testing on days 1, 3, 5, and 7, and then on day 8 you're able to come to the building and practice, and depending on where you come from, there might be further quarantines, but for the players coming from the World Juniors, to our knowledge, regardless of their mode of transportation, there'll be a 7-day quarantine.
And just to follow up kind of on a prospects angle, do you have injury updates on David Gustafsson as well as some of the Swedish first round or Swedish draft picks from earlier this season?
Yeah, so Gus did get hurt playing over there right before, I guess, their leagues paused. He sustained an injury. He's still recovering from that. So, he's over here and has quarantined and gone through that process already. His exact availability from the beginning of training camp will still be, I guess, determined as he gets more treatment. So I'm not 100% certain that he's available to us for the first little while of training camp from that injury lingering. So Torgersson, he got hurt very early in his season over there and had to have some surgery. I believe he's on the recovery process and hopefully when things resume, more normally that he'll be back. Trying to think what else. It's been more just trying to focus on training camp here from that standpoint. With respect to getting everybody into camp healthy is kind of what I've been looking at.
Alrighty, we'll go next with Sarah Oleski from TSN. Go ahead, Sarah.
Thanks, Kevin. Just wondering whether or not there was a lot of speculation, obviously, during the offseason about the status of Patrik Laine, the team. At any point in time, did you talk to him when the rumors were going on, or have you spoken to him since he's arrived back in Winnipeg?
I haven't spoken to him since he's been back. I've been in constant contact with his representatives, all the time throughout the long pause, or the long off season, I guess is more the better term. So we're excited. Obviously, camp is getting started here, and we think with some of the acquisitions that we've made, obviously adding Stas, we think we've got one of the better, if not one of the best top sixes, in the National Hockey League. So we're excited about, having the ability, to down the middle with Scheifele and Stastny on our top six, and with the quality of wingers like Patrick and Wheels and Nicky Ehlers and Kyle Connor. I think there's lots of different combinations that can be very, very dynamic. So, we're excited, and I think you're going to see some good things.
And you might have answered this bit with Ken's question earlier about the taxi squad, but just with your young players that maybe either would have necessarily gone back to junior, like a Cole, or whether it be AHL players, when you're looking at young guys that haven't had any pro experience yet, will the way that you deal with them this year maybe be different than what we've seen in the past, just given that you might not have the same sort of options for them leagues for them to play in?
Well, I think the first and foremost thing is to find out, where we're at with our own American League team and the abilities to play and the abilities to have a meaningful opportunity for players to play. The taxi squad obviously takes some players that might have been in the American League, playing games, and maybe puts them, on your roster, or on your traveling party, I guess, so to speak. The CHL side of it is different. When there is no CHL, I think there is an opportunity to keep the players around here, for a while, and depending on the different situations that open themselves, maybe they get a chance to play in the American Hockey League, or maybe they get a chance to maybe skate with the team and practice with the team. But again, you're going to look at every person and every individual differently, and hey, maybe they make your team. Again, that's the opportunity that is there for training camp, and certainly for a player like Cole or with Heinola coming from the World Juniors, they're going to have the advantage of playing at a high level and really kind of be on the, I don't know, tops of their games, but certainly the rust will be out of their games more so than a lot of players that are just coming to camp on the 3rd.
Alrighty, and let's go next with Carter Brooks. Go ahead, Carter.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for doing this.
My pleasure.
I just want to ask you, how important, or I guess helpful from both a GM as well as a team standpoint, was it to have both Mark Scheifele and Andrew Copp involved with the return to play committee?
Well, again, both guys, have a real passion, for the game, and so certainly when you have players like that involved in the decision making process from a player standpoint, that both of them are, have the best interest of the game at heart. But they're also players that are concerned and understand about being pro athletes. So they know the importance of protocols, and they know the importance of keeping safe, and certainly understand. And they're both, highly intelligent, people that function really well in those type of situations. And obviously, it was Mark's second opportunity to be part of that, and Andrew, again, I think had a very big role in that, and we didn't have any really inside information just because they were on that. Certainly, I think our players, might have been, more informed because, when you have two guys that are close to your team, I think, they probably got a little bit more intel, which is great, because one of the things, I guess, during a period where you're not playing, or you're in discussions, or that you just want some information. So I guess we're fortunate that our players, had the benefit of some of their teammates directly involved.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Looking towards now, maybe from the fan perspective, and with obvious financial loss due to no gate revenue, etc. How can fans of the Winnipeg Jets maybe help the Winnipeg Jets, whether that's buying something, going somewhere, watching something, with fans used to dishing out money for tickets, which can't happen now? What can they do to help out the club?
Well, first and foremost, they can take care of themselves. They can be very vigilant in their practices, in their everyday life. Listen to your local governments, and try to help do the things that need to be done, when the time comes, in order to get back in the building, because that's really the most important thing we as citizens can do. It's something that it's incumbent upon all of us, not just if you're a sports fan or not, and we're all in this together when it really comes to that. So certainly, again, your support, the support of the Jets fans has been unwavering, and for that we're eternally grateful. And when you see the fans, walking around, and at this time of the year where, obviously it's a winter time here, and you see the toques and the scarves and the jackets of the Jets, you certainly know that they're missing it, and they're longing for it. And all we can do is hope to provide you guys, some great entertainment, and some opportunities to maybe want to stay at home, and because that Jets game is going to be on tonight, as opposed to maybe going out and doing some of the things that we're not supposed to be doing.
Alrighty, we'll go next with Brian Munz from TSN 12 Minutes. Go ahead, Munzie.
Kevin, can you update us on the status of your roster right now? Like, for the most part, are all your NHL players in town, and will they be ready to go on Sunday when camp begins?
So all of them are in town. There's a couple of, quarantining things that will probably maybe delay one or two, just with logistics, getting Mikhail Burden out of Russia, with some flight logistics and stuff like that. I think is an ongoing was an ongoing thing. One thing, I guess, players, people should understand. We received a ruling where the players can come in and do a modified quarantine, which is for the first 7 days of the players that have an applicable 14-day quarantine. The first 7 days are tests on days 1, 3, 5, and 7. And those, upon having negative tests in those 4 tests, those players then from days 8 through 14 would be allowed to come from their apartment to the rink only and back. The rules are, and we received that, from the federal government. I think we actually got it on Christmas Eve, and it's applicable for anybody that had crossed, that was under that quarantine restriction. It is interesting. The NHL, has taken another level of quarantine as well, where even though interprovincial travel from the West, there really isn't a quarantine coming into Manitoba. The NHL is mandating a 7-day, 1, 3, 5, and 7 testing protocol for those players as well. So we're trying to keep, although we're not in a bubble and we're not in a sealed environment, we're trying to limit and the protocols are such that you're trying to make sure that you're keeping that group as tight and as safe as possible. There's limitations as to the number of players that you're allowed to bring to camp. 36 skaters and plus goaltenders is the ruling. And as far as everybody's being in Winnipeg, outside of, I think we indicated that I don't believe Jack is as an RFA yet. I believe everybody will be in and will be quickly out of their quarantine.
Are your 36 players pretty much set, or will you look at any PTO opportunities or anything like that?
So there's a couple of PTOs that we'll probably be announcing as camp does start to open, but that's some of that's still a little bit of a work in progress.
Thank you.
Alrighty, we'll go next with Paul Friesen from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Paul.
Hi, Kevin. Top of the holidays to you.
Thanks very much. Same to you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Patrick Laine's agent has said that a trade would be in his best interests. How concerned are you about kind of letting that sit, letting it fester, and becoming a problem that has a negative impact on either Patrick or the team?
Well, I think, again, everybody's a professional, and I certainly, I was a professional trying to do my job this summer in looking at all the different options, to improve our team. And I think that, we have done that. I think we've had some acquisitions with respect to, Stas and obviously even adding players like Thompson and Forbert from an experience standpoint, help. As far as, with Patrick, again, I assume he's probably going to have one of his best years of his career, given the group of players that we have and the professionalism that is there, and the maturity level that, that all players gain, year over year over year, I think just, helps us move forward.
In the bigger picture, could you speak to the optics of playing games and traveling at a time when most of the population is restricted from doing those very things?
Well, it's something that's not taken lightly, and I've had the fortune of being on some of the calls between the provinces and the Players Association and the National Hockey League, and the level of care and the level of detail that has gone into the protocols and the restrictions that are there for teams on the road, making the commitment that you're only going from the hotel to the arena and back to the hotel and on to the charter. It is going to be a real restrictive environment when it comes to the players and their duties in this whole thing. From a societal standpoint, again, we're all going through some real tough times here with respect to having to stay inside, having to quarantine, not being able to see families, during Christmas or, during the holidays or respective gatherings that are traditional to everybody. One thing, again, that hopefully we can do is provide them an opportunity to maybe get some joy and some enjoyment, with respect to something that makes them, hopefully feel good or hopefully feel passionate, about. So having sports is more than just, I think, about the wins and the losses. I think it's about a mental psyche of a community and a mental psyche of a society in a lot of respects. So I think everyone's looking for something to make them feel good, and we hope that we can provide that in a lot of different ways.
Ready? We'll go next with Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press. Go ahead, Mike.
Hi, Kevin. Belated Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you and your family.
Thanks. Same to you.
Just a technical question on a player like Jack Roslovic. So in the past, when you've had RFAs, I'm thinking of Josh Morrissey, he was in Winnipeg skating, but he's a Canadian citizen.
Yeah.
I think last year with Patrick and Kyle, they were back in Finland and Michigan at the time until they got the deals done. There obviously weren't quarantine issues in place there. Could Jack conceivably be in Winnipeg right now, or is there a work visa issue that would prevent that because he doesn't have a contract right now?
Well, technically he doesn't have a contract, but if it were a situation where he wanted to come, I guess there's different ways to look at it. But it's not something that has been explored yet. But but he would be obviously subject to a quarantine. Everybody, I guess, not just Jack,
Right.
everybody, whether we bring in someone on a PTO right now or whether we bring someone outside of Winnipeg into our situation, they're all going to involve a quarantine. Players can cross the border if they have been invited to training camp.
Okay. And then just a non-Jets question, a person that's near and dear to Winnipeggers. It was announced earlier today that Jonathan Toews is dealing with an illness and isn't going to be ready to start the season. He's obviously someone you got to know. You won a Stanley Cup as part of that organization with him. Just your thoughts on what he's going through and what he maybe faces here.
Well, I think it just goes to show that everybody's human, whether you're a player, whether you're a rookie, whether you're a 10 or 12 or 13 year vet. There's lots of things that go on in people's lives, and I don't know the exact specific of what Jonathan is going through, but at the very core, I do know how much that organization and all organizations care about their players, and their first and foremost thought always comes to the health of the player, and so our best wishes go out to Jonathan as well, and I didn't get a chance to see him in the off season. Usually you do run into him, but with all the restrictions that do go on, I think everybody was more to themselves, so never got a chance to see him. But my thoughts also go out to Henrik Lundqvist, who is going through the heart condition that he's going through. Again, these guys are great players. They're wonderful ambassadors to the community, but they're good friends and good family members to many people as well.
And we'll go next with Kelly Moore from CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thanks very much, and Merry Christmas to you, Kevin.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, you bet. You were mentioning that the fact that you can't get out and travel and that sort of thing. Normally at this time of the year, you and your scouts would be at the World Junior Tournament. So I'm just kind of wondering how different it has been, and if it impacts, I don't want to say negatively, but certainly from a challenge aspect, to scout these players as you normally would, whether they're Cole Pefetti and Pefetti Heinola and Henry Niekkonen or others that might be on your radar. How different has that been for you and your scouts this year?
Well, it's been very different, and it's something that you're constantly trying to evaluate and constantly trying to come to grips with. You're right. The World Juniors is just it's such a wonderful scouting event. Not only in a lot of cases it's for the amateurs. There's generally a lot of European players that are up for the draft, and sometimes there's U.S. players and Canadian players, although mostly those players are drafted. But from a management perspective, it's such a great evaluation tool to see the top prospects playing against each other and against their peers. So and again, you can watch it, and you've learned to adapt, and you've learned to use video. Everyone becomes a video editor at some point in time here, throughout this pandemic. But it still doesn't take away from the the human scouting aspect of things. And the real interesting thing, and the dynamics that we're all going to have to still be faced with, is going to be the draft moving forward. And you've got, again, the current CHL situation. Is something that everybody is monitoring on a regular basis, because it's such an important aspect of the drafting process. You've got college and USHL in the US that is going, and then some days you'll get a text or something like that they're not going. So you just have to maintain that adaptability and that flexibility. But unquestionably, it's going to be have an effect on how decisions are going to be made when it comes to those respective things like the draft, and even evaluating and potentially seeing where your prospects are at from a development standpoint.
And I know the trading deadline is up the road a bit till the middle of April. But just in terms of, I was listening to you talking about like a person like Jack Roslovic, for instance, coming into the fold and having to quarantine. Under normal circumstances, a team makes a trade, you want to get the guy in the lineup as quickly as possible. How much does this current situation, if it applies to mid-April, factor into making trades? Because as I understand it right now, you'd have to wait for about 7 or 8 days before you could actually play that player.
Yep. I think, unless the current protocols will change as we get into the season, the protocols for bringing a player in that hasn't been part of your team or hasn't been part of your taxi squad, or hasn't been part of, hasn't met certain criteria, will be a 7-day, minimum 7-day type of quarantine. So again, it'll factor into your decision-making process, and then it'll become normal. Like we have to find a new normal, a way of doing business. You read the protocols, you understand the protocols, and then you adapt and find a way to do your business.
Alrighty, we'll go next with Jamie Thomas. Go ahead, Jamie.
Sorry, Kevin.
No problem.
Okay, do that again. So many question marks about your blue line a year ago. How comfortable are you with this blue line this season, considering it looks like Derek Forport's the only new face back there heading into camp?
Well, again, we're excited, about the opportunity to have him. He's someone that when he was in LA, he put up some top minutes before he had an injury. Put up some really good years with playing against some good players, playing some shutdown roles. He relishes the penalty kill, which is something that we look at improving. Obviously, we're excited that Dylan DeMello chose to stay with us, from a free agent standpoint. I'm sure there was, I know there would be lots of opportunity for him elsewhere, judging by the phone calls I got after, we got him signed. So, again, excited, about having that. Really excited about, again, just the continuity of Josh taking another step and Neil Pionk taking another step. Tucker Pullman's, now got a year, under his belt. Sami Niku, just, really hope that he can, take, use training camp as an opportunity to springboard, because there's so much, I think, more, in his game that unfortunately through, the injuries and the like, I guess we just got to make sure he doesn't drive to training camp so he doesn't get in a car accident, to kick things off. But, and then, we've got some young players that we're looking forward to seeing. Dylan Sandberg has not had the benefit of coming to an NHL training camp yet. So we really have, we've kind of been frothing at the mouth for a couple of years to get him into the pro ranks. And now the time is here. Pefetti Heinola has had the benefit of playing over in Finland. So his game, hopefully will be at a level that'll, turn heads here, right away. Obviously he had a great training camp last year, and, we're just looking for, obviously for him to come in and have matured that much more, over the course of time. And a player like Logan Stanley, who's, had the opportunity to play 2 years of pro. You're looking for that development, and you're looking for those guys to take that next step. And we think we've got great depth, and we've got a couple of guys that we think that there's a lot of room to grow with.
Alrighty, just a few more. Sean Reynolds, go ahead. Thank you.
Hey, Kevin, happy holidays.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Kevin, it's my understanding that negotiations began with Jack's camp last week, and they may have been a little upset about that. What can you tell us about the timing of starting those negotiations at that later date?
Well, we made our qualifying offers back when everyone made their qualifying offers, and as far as the cadence of of a conversation, or the cadence of or the contents of a meeting, I've always had the belief and the way I've conducted business is that's been kept private.
When the schedule comes out, I think, sometimes as journalists and fans, you take a look at it and you just think a season's going to unroll just as it looks on the calendar. But I'm sure there's unique challenges to a year like this. So I'm trying to get a gauge on what are the challenges that you foresee for players in this unique season, and what is a team going to have to do maybe differently this year than they typically would have to succeed in a strange year like this?
So, I think one of the unique challenges is going to be, like hockey is such a team sport, and it's, you have to rely on that person sitting next to you, so much. That person's going to be sitting 6 feet away, so to speak, and away from the rink, players, are very, very close. Will you have that ability to develop that kind of chemistry, that kind of bond? I think those are the kind of things that teams are going to have to work extremely hard at, to try to find those non-traditional ways to to bond and to get together during these unprecedented times. When we went into the bubble situation in Edmonton, it was kind of like just pushing start again. It truly was a pause. Guys were in the middle of the season, and when you all got back together, it was a continuation of the season. This is starting something new. There's lots of changes on virtually every team, and there's young players that are going to try to cut their teeth, and some of them are going to be successful, and you have to find ways to integrate them into the lineup and into the fabric of the team. So I think those are some of the unseen challenges and that everyone's just going to have to grow with. I think the things that obviously stick out at you is when you go into a city and play a 3-game set, what's that going to be like? You don't really experience that until you get into playoffs, and even in playoffs it's a different type of situation. So those are going to be interesting dynamics, and I think it's the team that can adapt, and it's the team that doesn't get flustered when something happens, or there's a delay, or your tests don't show up on time and you have to delay practice for 3 hours. Those are kind of things that we might have to face, and the teams that can adapt to that and roll with those kind of punches are the ones that are going to be successful.
All right, we'll go next with Scott Billick from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Scott.
Hi, good afternoon, Chevy. Happy holidays.
Thanks, same to you.
Thanks. First question, concessions were made by the provinces when it came to the NHL's plan to get this going in Canada to play here in Winnipeg. Were you privy to those at all? And could you maybe speak to some of those concessions that you may know about, if possible?
Well, I think what the provinces were concerned about is to make sure that the level of care was there with respect to the protocols in general. I was not part of the greater protocol making process. That was done obviously in conjunction with the Players Association and the league, but it was done by the doctors of both respective groups, and it was enhanced by the further discussion with the various doctors and healthcare agencies in Canada. And I think Canada's done a great job of collectively, although every province has done it individually, collectively trying to, keep, their people as safe, their constituents as safe as possible. And, those doctors, first and foremost, thought process, was and is, and even, still today is about the greater good of the all the people in the province. So I think what was done was just the ability to digest and go line by line with the protocols and enhance in some areas, whether it's the testing times or the cohort type of things with respect to training camp, or the what ifs if a player does test positive and has a family, and those things are all contained in the NHL protocol. And I think it's just a matter of spending the time with the different provincial jurisdictions to go through all of their individuals. And some places had more concerns in one area, some places had more concerns in another. But I think at the end of the day, they all understood the stringency that is being placed on the players with respect to traveling and going into a different jurisdiction.
Thanks for that. And just a second question. What happens, let's say Cole Pefetti comes to camp, doesn't make the team. I assume you don't want him on a taxi squad because he's not playing, but if the CHL isn't playing, would you be looking to move him into a team in Europe? Like, what are the options for guys like that you would rather keep playing if let's say the CHL or even the AHL doesn't move forward?
Well, I think there's lots of ifs there. So obviously we don't know what the CHL situation is, and one thing that we are trying to figure out is our own American League situation. So I think it's my understanding that if in the short term that there's the CHL has not started yet, we wouldn't be under the same restrictions of sending a player that is eligible to be in the CHL back right away. Usually, under normal times during training camp, there's that period of time where you're allowed to keep people in training camp, and then at some point you have to send them back to junior. We don't have those restrictions right now because junior's not operating. So, it'd be something that we would, take all things into consideration. Europe is certainly, it could be an option, although even European, sometimes their situations have shut down as well. So again, all things are on the table, but including, the ability to have a player with the American Hockey League that maybe in other normal circumstances might not be there. But we haven't assigned anybody anywhere yet because we're looking at giving everybody an opportunity to come into a camp and really show where they're at. And those young players, as we've seen last year, can certainly surprise you.
Thanks for that.
And the final question goes to Patrick Williams. Go ahead, Patrick.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for doing this. Just a quick question. If the Moose do play, given the players you'll have on the taxi squad, how would you and Craig, go to look to construct that roster, given, the gaps that are on that roster right now?
So, it is a unique time in the American Hockey League. Again, lots of discussion going on. There probably will be some situations where some teams might look to loan another player or something like that from, if their respective situation in the American Hockey League isn't operating or isn't, working out for them. So there's lots of different, situations that might come into play there. We have signed some American League players that, again, might have been more for depth, but now are could come into play. So it's a really a time where things change very, very quickly and very fast, and they change based on the current information at hand, and you make decisions with what you know right now. And again, you may have to make another decision down the road with information that you gain because of what you have learned. So I guess it's a time where adaptability in the National League is important. Adaptability at the American Hockey League is paramount.
All righty. Thanks very much, Chevy. And thanks to everyone for joining us. We'll see you shortly for the call with Andrew Copp. Thank you.
Thank you.